I'm your host, Jason Tartick, and welcome to Trading Secrets. We talk all things money on this podcast, and we're teaching all the stuff we just weren't taught in the classroom. Nothing supports this show more than liking, commenting, and of course, subscribing. Welcome back to another episode of Trading Secrets. Today, we are joined by social media personality and podcast host, Sofia Franklyn. Sofia established herself as one of the first true podcast success stories while co-hosting the Call Her Daddy podcast during her time at Barstool Sports, dating back to 2018. After leaving Barstool Sports in 2020, she then started her own podcast, Sofia with an F, which has also proven to be a massive success. Sofia, however, is not just a podcaster, but a trailblazer in her own right, known for her fearless approach to discussing topics such as sex, friendships, and mental health. From her beginnings to her current ventures, Sofia has captivated her audiences with her unique perspective and unwavering authenticity. And we are here to talk all about your story and more. Sofia, thank you so much for being on Trading Secrets.
Jesus Christ. That intro was like, my ego just went through the roof.
Just popped, right? You're ready
I'm going
to
to start
go.
being rude to people. Like,
Start
my
being
ego just
rude.
went crazy.
That's right. This is your show right now. You're owning it. You're killing it. Let's start with this. So I wrote a book about love and money, right? Okay. We'll talk about the finances. We have to, if you're going to talk about relationships and we're talking about jobs, I got to go back to Peter Nelson. So he was a boyfriend of yours, right? He was an HBO exec, of course, heavily involved in this whole deal. And he got a lot of attention. I just said his name. So his name's everywhere now. Like, was there any part of his involvement in that deal, business aside, that irritated you because he was being the one talked about when you make a comment like, I want to be the star of the relationship?
No. And okay. I think that's kind of false. I think the media really tried to put a spin on it and say he was just so involved.
Yeah.
He was my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're obviously going to confide in your boyfriend about your work and everything going on in your life. But I guess he wasn't that involved. But what was your question?
My question was, you had said that you want to be the star.
Oh, right. If he overshadowed me.
Did you feel it all? Like, maybe we could dive into that down the road on this episode. But did you feel it all like he became the star in your spotlight at all? Because I just kept seeing his name everywhere.
Right.
With this thing. And like even today, Portnoy, all he's talking about is the boyfriend. Not even talking about you anymore. Like, did that at all play into the fact that you're like, I don't want anyone ever in the spotlight again?
Yes,
okay.
but not for the reasons of like, oh, they're getting attention. For the reasons of like, they're getting negative attention. They didn't ask to be a public figure, and I don't want to be this public with a relationship again.
Understood.
He didn't want to be, talked about publicly in the news.
Okay, got it. All right, so back to the love and money. No professional athletes, no stars, but you have to have wealth. And so a lot of people that are listening to this podcast are single, and it's about 70% women. So give me your take on that when you're connecting the thought process of like your love life with money. Why do they have to come from wealth? What's the thought process?
So when I say wealth, I just mean they need to be financially stable.
Okay.
I'm not like, I need this dollar amount in their bank account. I'm not looking, they don't need to be a multi-millionaire, but the dynamics in a relationship, I need them to be kind of on par with the finances I bring in.
Sure.
So we both need to be ambitious. We both need to care about work, and we need to be on a same playing field, or he can be a little bit above.
Okay.
Or a lot above. I won't say
or a lot
no.
Above. There's no max capacity. But so your point is like, what I'm hearing is I'm an independent boss. I'm making this much. Either level with me or even do better. That's kind of your threshold.
Listen, my mom, I love her to death. She's always been the breadwinner.
Yeah.
She's very, very attractive. And her relationships, she is single and she's been married a few times. And a lot of those relationships that didn't work out were with men who didn't make as much as her or even worked for her at one point, which sounds like that's not allowed. HR is like, what do you mean? Like they worked for her, but
what did she do?
She works for HUD, which is like the housing government agency, and she'll just get contracts around the US.
Interesting.
That's the most simple way to put it, or else it gets crazy.
Yeah.
But it didn't work. I think it's very rare that men can be making way less than a woman in a relationship and that it works for them.
Interesting. Okay. So one thing you had mentioned is like the salary component of things. And what we know is that this is a true statistic. 50% of relationships, they don't feel comfortable talking about money. And then of that 50% where they do talk about money, they say that like 3/4 of them have huge arguments about money in the relationship. And then it even ties into intimacy. So I know we're going a little deep here, but of that 3/4, so 75% of the people that do feel comfortable talking about money that get into fights, over 50% of them say they have massively decreased intimacy because of money issues. So there's all these connections to people that talk money, don't know how to talk about it healthy, and then it turns into issues and decreased intimacy. And then the people that don't talk about it, there's like cheating through money. So for you to understand if someone's making what you're making or more, you clearly have to be able to talk about it. How early on in the relationship dating process are you going to be like, let's talk, like, how much you making, man? How much you making? What's your credit score? What's your debt? Like, how early are you doing that? Date 1, date 5, date 10? Tell me about it.
Do you have my whole Fox News Daily Mail situation that went down?
I have a lot of your stuff, but I don't have that one.
I had done a podcast with my good friend Leo Skeppy.
Okay.
And I made a joke, which it was like mostly a joke, but there was some truth to it, that I will ask a guy to pull up his bank account on a first date. So that little clip, the media...
I do have that.
Okay, I was like,
but they didn't say Fox. It literally says that she exclusively is seeking wealthy partners, asking for their bank statements on first dates to gauge compatibility. So I do have that information.
So let me tell you where Fox News comes in.
Okay.
So I get sent this clip of this panel of people at Fox News. Tommy Lahren, is that how you say her name?
Yeah.
She's on this panel and they're discussing this clip of me saying, I asked a guy to pull up his bank account info on the first date.
Yes.
Why Fox News is, spending time and energy debating this thing that I said in a podcast joking, I don't know. But they felt very passionately about it. Tell me.
I mean, like all this podcast is taking like pretty much pop culture and breaking down the economics. They're stepping into that because it's a very polarizing subject, which creates a lot of attention and people want to click and see it. And the reason they want to click and see it is because they want to do it. They want to have the chops to ask them for the bank statements. They want to start talking about money and know about it. It's the only reason this podcast does well. It's not me. It's that people are just interested in this shit.
Valid.
But no one talks about it because we were never taught it in school and therefore we don't know how to talk about it. So 90% of relationships are sitting back home wondering what their partner spends, wondering what they make, and they don't talk about it. So they hear someone like you say it and they're like, I need to fucking know because I don't do it. That's my take.
That is so insane to me. And even that's not the first time I've heard that couples don't talk about finances. I could not do that. Am I actually asking a dude how much he makes on the first date? If he's like younger and I'm fucking around and like I'm trying to push my limit and just see how crazy I can act, because sometimes I like to do that just for fun.
Okay.
That didn't make me sound crazy. I will, but no. Like the real me and how I'm going to go into dating moving forward, I wouldn't ask that on a first date. I'll be asking it though. I would say...
What date number?
I think the second we become exclusive and like in a committed relationship.
Okay. You want to know what they're making.
Yeah.
Now, are you going to also, because we know there's another stat. I only know all these stats because I literally wrote a book called Talk Money to Me, and it's all about money and love. So 43% of married or cohabitating couples have what's called financial infidelity. So it's lying and cheating through money, but we're not talking about like buying a six-pack of Truly. We're talking about like massive material cheating through finances, similarly equivalent to like if you were cheating on your partner. So big stuff. Almost half of relationships do it. So if someone tells you they make $1 million a year, $2 million a year, whatever they're trying to make, how do you know the validity? Do you take their word for it, or do you actually want to see the numbers?
I need to see the numbers.
I love it. That's great.
My last relationship,
it's great.
I had him actually pull up his several bank accounts so I could see.
And did what his bank account said match what he said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Actually, the bank account was better. Because I'm looking at the stocks and I'm looking at like everything.
So he had more money saved than he was making.
Yes.
What number did you see? Because you haven't said the person. We don't know
Let's
which
just
boyfriend.
in the millions. In the millions.
In the millions.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that hit your, okay, I'll date him.
And yeah. But it wasn't, okay, it wasn't the millions, but I mean, it wasn't that. That was not the reason I was like, I'll date him. I was already dating him. But I needed him to verify because, listen, people are out here scamming.
Yeah.
Like, for real.
Well, the thing I always say is people, like, gaslighting is a huge topic of conversation. Majority of people are gaslighting through assets, right? They're making you believe something is a reality just through what they're wearing or what they're driving or what they're showing. And it's, in fact, the opposite of the reality. So I think people gaslight through their assets.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, because I think it was actually like Barstool and Dave, like he has a pot and they were like talking shit saying, well, you can kind of just tell if someone has money.
No, you cannot.
And no, you cannot.
No,
those are
you
sometimes
cannot.
the worst.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, literally as a banker, I get to see all the stuff people would do, but then I got to see their numbers all the time. And then if you're doing a big deal with a CEO or a CFO, you see all their personal financial statements. There's almost never a correlation to what you think and what the numbers say, ever. And in fact, what I learned is when you judge a book by its cover, it's usually almost the opposite from what you see. Totally. And then, I mean, you could throw more statistics out there. Household incomes of $250K in the United States. We're in New York City. Everything's inflated here, but just go to the Midwest or other areas. $250K household income is massive. Majority of those people are driving Toyotas, Hondas, and Fords. Like, so.
Thank you.
Yes.
Warren Buffett.
Yes.
It's the Warren Buffett style.
Totally. All right. Let me ask you all, we're still on this subject. I do a podcast once a year, every year, where I go in the hot seat. And I have my co-host drills me on everything. How much you make on that deal, how much you make this year, how much you have over here. And I share all my numbers. Because I expect if my guests are going to share anything, even touch it, then I got to be willing to do the same. So I'm gonna act like you're the host. Okay. And there's the future boyfriend right there. Okay. And you're asking him, how much at the minimum does he have to make for you to be like, I would seriously think about a long-term relationship with you? What's the number, the minimum?
It's like so hard. What if he's like in med school and he's like about to be a surgeon? Okay. But like, what's the cap for a surgeon, honestly? $700K?
No, there's like, depending on what kind of surgeon, it's more than that. But we had a doctor come on the podcast who said him and his doctor buddies all tell their kids not to get in healthcare unless they have a huge desire to do so, because the insurance in between the government, the earnings is actually being decreased. So they're making less and less every year.
That's great.
But back to your question, give me a roundabout. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to sit here and say, Sophia will never date a guy making less than this. I'm just curious, like, what are you thinking?
You know what? All the men on the internet already hate me for that bank account thing. So I don't think I'm going to make more enemies.
Yeah.
I would say he's got to have a very safe savings account. Okay. Like there has to be a cushion there. At least a few $100,000. I also live in New York. Yeah. And I'm also, when I'm looking for a partner, I'm thinking, okay, what if I have kids with this person?
Yeah.
And what if they lose their job? And what if I can't work? Like, will we still be okay?
Yeah.
You know?
I think there's also probably a lot, like you think about therapy, it ties to your inner child. There is something financial therapy. And seeing what you said about your mom, like your mom being the breadwinner and seeing it not work out, I'm sure that instills some of these things that you hold while you're thinking about dating when it comes to love and money.
100%.
Okay, let me ask you this, and then I'll move on from love and money. We'll do red flag, green flag, beige flag. I'll throw a couple scenarios out there. Okay. You tell me what it's like. First date, they asked to split the check.
Bye. Red flag. Goodbye flag.
See ya, you're done.
Ew.
If they ask you to split the check, will you split the check?
Fuck no. At that point, I would just pick up the bill.
So you'd be like, no, I got this.
I would really try to like emasculate at that point. Be like, you know what? I just got it, but like also never text me again. That sounds really harsh.
Yeah.
I just think either pick up the bill or let's go to the park and bring a baguette and a thing of cheese.
I like it.
You know what I mean?
Sarita Kerrigan came on saying something similar. And she said, my take on it is first 3 dates, they must pay. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And if you can't afford the big restaurant, that's fine. Do something thoughtful. What's your take on that?
100%. Let's go. Let's do a picnic.
Okay. Got it. There you go.
You know?
All right. Someone says they have massive debt of some sort, but let's say they have high earnings. Yeah, red flag, green flag.
Can I say beige flag?
Beige flag on that one?
Again, doctor, they're going to have student loans at
Yep,
the
true.
union, you know?
Yep. Okay.
Also, how much debt are we talking? Actually.
In this case, we're talking $95,000 of debt.
95,000?
Yep.
High earnings, though.
Yeah.
It depends what field he's in.
Okay. Depends.
And we're definitely signing a prenup.
You are also, by the way, you know how we start with the funnel of like who's going to end up with Sofia Franklyn? You're really bringing this funnel, like no actors, no athletes, no social media, can't be the star, can't be this, da da da. Okay, now you got to be a doctor, but you can't be a doctor with too much debt. You must have a couple $100,000 in savings. You're getting fucking tight here, Sophia.
Shit,
you might have to go be the next Bachelorette.
Fuck, I actually might need to. This is not good for me.
You just know the girl that did the song, looking for a man in finance, right? That whole thing, she came on and she was saying there's only 2 of those men in the whole country.
Oh, shit.
Statistically, there are only 2 men that have 6'5" blue eyes and have a trust fund.
Oh, I don't care. The 6'5" and the blue eyes, I don't give a shit.
Don't care. You just want some cash.
You're making me sound so bad. Here's the thing. You know what? On the flip side, what are dudes looking for?
Yeah.
Hot. Like you guys want,
well,
of course,
physical attraction for sure.
Yes. Yeah. I kind of see money and the way you look going hand in hand. They're both superficial things.
Yeah.
Except money, I actually think is less so.
Wait, by the way, I'm not making you look bad. I'm not making you
only date girls for how they look.
Because I agree. Wait, I agree with you. I think like there's a lot of behaviors that also align with something you might want in a partner that correlates to financial success in some capacity, right? So if someone has shitty credit or someone has bad behaviors, that doesn't mean they're a shitty person. Doesn't mean anything. It can actually be adjusted and fixed quickly. But I think through like money and financial transparency, you can learn a lot about a human's character, priorities, historical behaviors, their impulses. Like you can learn. It's not as like materialistic as I think it's made out to be. I'm here to fight that, so I agree with you on that.
Yeah,
we're in the same category there. I'm with you.
Okay, thank you. And I think girls get a bad rap, right? Like when I made that comment about the asking for the bank account, all of these news outlets, the headline was gold digger.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, I have my own finances. I'm successful in my own right.
Right.
You know,
exactly. So you just want someone to meet you there.
Yeah,
and I totally see all that. I think. If I had any criticism for it, I feel like the messaging, we could polish it up a little bit. But I think the intention, I'm like totally there with you.
Okay.
Love it. Okay, let's get into some of your successes. I think your story is like really cool. So many people are inspired by what you've done, how you've navigated, and where you've gone. What I think is really cool is that you actually started your career in finance.
Yes.
You started at Morgan Stanley.
I did.
So that also might have a derivative of why these things mean something to you, right?
Yes.
What was your job there? What'd you do?
So in Utah, there is actually Morgan Stanley in Utah, but I worked in operations, so I'm not really dealing with finances whatsoever.
Okay.
Then I kind of use that as my golden ticket to get out of Utah and come to New York.
Okay.
Because Utah, it's not that fun.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a bubble. So I come to New York and then I just worked for a team of financial advisors, which I do want to flex. The financial advisor who his career just rocket launched.
Yeah.
I was working for him and now he's my financial advisor.
No way.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're working, was your goal before everything happened in the podcasting and entertainment space, trajectory, if you go to Sofia while she's working for the financial advisor, what was the plan for your career with 10 years? What did you ideally want it to look like?
So I didn't love finance. I didn't love economics. Did I force myself to major in economics? Yes.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to make sure I was going into a field where, money can be made.
Yeah.
I probably should have majored in something like English. That probably speaks more to me, but I was like, what the fuck am I going to do with that?
Sure.
In hindsight, what you major in doesn't really matter too much.
I agree with that.
But my plan was just to kind of get my foot in the door.
Yep.
Morgan Stanley is a huge, top 5 bank, and we'll just see where we go from there.
Cool.
I think I was studying for my Series 7.
Okay.
But then I just kind of didn't take it seriously.
That test is a bitch. It's a
Right,
pain in the ass. All right, so you get to that point. You're in finance. You're maybe a bit working your way towards being an advisor. You're making, let me guess, around 75 grand.
Yeah.
Wow, I nailed that. See?
Yeah.
You're doing
Well,
pretty
it was like 60.
good. Okay.
And then I got a raise, and then I think we ended up actually at 65. That's it.
Okay, so 65.
Yeah.
But also
Wait, that was pretty
inflation,
good.
2018-ish,
Very
right?
true. Very
What
true.
year was that? 2000?
That was like, 2018, 2019.
So that was a different ball game then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then, you meet Alex, you come up with this idea, you start the podcast. At what point do you get to a level where you're like, I can quit my full-time job? Like, how long did that take from starting the idea to being like, I could be done with it?
So I was working at Morgan Stanley and recording on Mondays.
Okay.
And then I started walking into the office, and people were like, oh, you're talking about sex and all this crazy ass
Yeah.
shit. And I remember walking through the hallway and hearing my voice. And there were like these two dudes like watching on their phones. And I was like, I'm going to be so fucked,
Yeah.
But then 3 episodes went out, and then Barstool reached out. And when Barstool reached out with a contract with a salary that was $10K more than what I was making, I was like, wait, I can just talk shit and talk about my life for a living and make more money. This is insane.
Then full-time at a desk?
Yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm from Utah, I didn't know about entertainment. I didn't know those avenues really existed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when all of a sudden they're giving me 10K more and it's to talk on a microphone, I'm like, hi, let's go.
So it wasn't a position where, because you had talked about the fact this isn't good. I'm saying things that aren't kosher at the bank. It wasn't the bank pushing you out. It was you saying, I'm leaving the bank.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think they would have pushed me out eventually.
I got fired from my bank.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So
shit.
I went on the reality show, got off the show, and I did a double dip thing. I was living 2 lives. It was I'm meeting with a CFO of a $500 million, billion-dollar company, and then at night I'm doing a bar appearance. I'm going to structure a big interest rate derivative swap on floating rate debt, and then at night I'm taking photos for a weighted blanket. It was out of control. But my ex at the time told a story about our sex life, and that story is what ended up getting me fired.
Were you going into work stressed as shit? Your day job?
It was the worst. It was a great financial year for me because I'm working all these angles. I still, to this day, I haven't worked at the bank since 2019. I still, to this day, will wake up once in a while in a sweat that I'm not hitting my number, or that I'm brought into the office at the bank because I did something wrong.
Right.
I'm still haunted by it.
It's PTSD.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. So I have some sympathy for that. I understand it. So you go to Barstool, you're making the 75K, and then there's been, obviously you've talked about it at length. There's a million articles about this. I don't want to get into the drama. What I want to do is hear some of the numbers though, just because I think there's a lot of learning lessons with it. You guys are making more on a show than your entire salary for the year based on the downloads.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, right? Now, did you get any bonuses at all? Because you guys were crushing merch, you're crushing all this. Were there any other incentives other than the base, or no?
Yeah, we each got 2.5% off of merch sales.
And how in merch sales, what did that, do you remember what that led to?
There was one hoodie in particular that hoodie just by itself made $1 million.
One hoodie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What was the hoodie? Of all the people that have come on here, we've had A-Rod, Grind people, a lot of people sell merch.
Yeah.
I don't know I've ever heard of someone having their own merch making $1 million on one SKU.
It was fucking crazy. It was just lightning in a bottle. It was this gray hoodie, and it said unwell, which is this term that I told a story about. It was a story about Morgan Stanley.
No way.
Because I was at Coachella, and I definitely had work that day.
Yeah.
And I'm in California, and work is in New York, and I just sent an email saying I'm unwell.
Oh my!
And then that's all I said in the email. But the
That's funny. When my banking days, the days I'd call off, I would be so nervous that they were going to, because if I was
Oh my
calling
God.
off, it was for a reason.
Yes.
And I'm like, they're going to see me somewhere being like, you're so full of shit.
Oh my God, the anxiety of having to call in sick.
The
It was
worst.
just, that's all I could muster is I'm unwell. And it was whatever. The hoodie said unwell on the front. And I think that was it.
Yeah.
And that made $1 million. And it wasn't a cool design. It was
Crazy.
just.
Boom. Got it. All right. We talk a lot about negotiating on this show. And anyone listening to this, they could be a nurse, a teacher, they could be a salesperson. Like, there's a million different industries out there. Annual reviews come up. People struggle with negotiating. Specifically, when you think about everything that you had to deal with in negotiation phase, whether it was after Barstool or before Barstool, what are some tactics maybe you would have done differently knowing what you know now that possibly someone listening to this could be inspired by as they go to negotiate whatever it is they're negotiating?
If you're going to go into business with a business partner, you guys need to have a contract between the two of you. And I remember people telling me that, but I was just so naive because I'm like, what, 25, I think? Maybe 27 at that point. I don't remember, but I remember thinking we're best friends. Like this, like we're like family. We don't need, in hindsight, you do. So I think that, I would say that was kind of the biggest takeaway.
It's just so like the focus is if there are words said, and I think this is relatable to anybody out there, if there's words said, get the words in a contract.
Right. And it's kind of similar to a prenup.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
And people feel
it's
like
identical to a prenup.
Yeah. And people think it takes the romance out of it. And it's you saying, I don't trust this person, or I think you're going to fuck me over. And it's like, it's not necessarily that. It's just crazy shit happens. People will act in a way that you didn't expect.
Yeah. And with prenup, my whole take on prenups are that they actually already exist. It's just your state law. So like if you get whatever state you get married in, there are different, and laws are all different based on what state. And there's those state laws that tell you what happened. And you can either customize those laws or you can have the state's prenup. Like
That's smart.
Right? So, and I think with any business partnership, having an operating agreement is so important. And I think even a larger lesson that maybe isn't as specific to you, but can relate to anybody is like, put stuff in fucking contracts.
Yes.
There are things today that I am burned still to this day that I
Right.
didn't have in contracts in either form of relationships or business partnerships. And unfortunately, the only way to learn, I feel like, is either listen to things like this or get burned. Right.
I totally agree.
And when you get burned, it sucks. So fucking get a contract.
Trust me. Trust.
My God. Okay. And then the last thing I just want to ask you on this topic, because I know it's one you probably don't enjoy talking about, but I'm doing the research and I saw it was November 2023. Alex revealed she hasn't spoken to you since. Is that true? Still haven't touch base?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. But you were able to be in a position where maybe it felt like rock bottom and you spun out of it.
Yeah.
And you've created an unbelievable podcast.
Thank you.
I couldn't believe, like, I'm looking at all the numbers, and again, all these numbers just blow me away. 82,000 reviews in your period of time. I know, like, but anybody out there, go look at a podcast you listen to often. Go check the reviews. I almost guarantee you're not going to find many podcasts in the entire world that have 82,000 reviews.
I don't even think like Joe Rogan has
Probably
that many.
not.
It's an insane amount. Are they all positive? I mean, a lot of them actually are very positive, but yeah, I forgot about the reviews. I do have quite a few of those.
It's insane. That's usually a good. Because we own a talent agency together, manage talent all the time. We're thinking about different podcasts people can go on. We have different tools. We could see success rates of podcasts, but the best way to do it is like to look at the reviews.
Right.
How engaged are people?
Right.
82,000 is a number. I don't know if I've ever seen it.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
When you did have to pivot that and you're stuck at rock bottom and you're fighting media, you're fighting Barstool, you're fighting
demons.
a good friend, you're fighting demons, you have all these things in the world piling on you. Then on top of it, the envy that has to be there of seeing the other person have success. What are some things that you would tell someone right now that maybe not to that extent, but they're feeling rock bottom in their career, their personal life? What were your steps to get out of there, to get to where you are today?
I wouldn't recommend the steps I took because looking back, it was very much, I was numbing. I was just dove into work and I didn't even give myself like the time to really heal or process like what was happening. And I don't regret any of that, but for someone who's at rock bottom right now, I think a really major and very important thing, and to this day, I think about this every day, is you are on your own journey and your own path, and that needs to be your focus. And if you're living your life comparing and looking at what could have been and who got this and what you didn't, you will always be unfulfilled and unhappy.
Yeah.
And even if it's just this one incident, you can't live your life that way.
Yeah.
I could live the rest of my life being super sad and upset, you know?
Yeah. When
Life's short.
you said numbing, was it a form of like productive? I mean, you mentioned working. So were you just like working, channeling all your emotions to just work,
Yes.
to build?
Yes. I
Like,
also,
what did that look like?
that looked like me holed up in a room that size
Okay.
in my mom's basement with no windows and working like 17 hours straight. And I also had a lot of people around me, like my agent at the time, my publicist at the time, saying, if you don't, put something out, you're going to be forgotten.
Yeah.
In hindsight, do I think I was going to be forgotten if I spent 6 months before I came back? No.
Yeah.
But I think that also contributed to it.
Okay. So you had the people like not only in the outside circle, but in the inner circle also putting all this pressure on you
Right.
to do
Because
it.
ultimately they want to make money,
Yeah. You've had a lot of success since then.
Yes.
Do you look back at that time and you're like, yeah, I was numbing, but like kind of thankful I did bust my ass? Or do you look at that time like, actually, I should have done it differently?
I don't live with regrets like
Okay.
about anything.
Yeah.
Do I kind of wish I would have strategized like what I wanted the show to be about? Did I want guests? Do I want,
Mhm.
instead of just being like, get the episode out and we'll figure it out like next week's episode that week?
Mhm.
I mean, sure, yeah. I think it would have been a lot less stressful for me because it was like a crazy time, but I don't have regrets.
Love it. With the podcast, did you sign with a network? Did you kind of do your own thing? Like, what did that look like?
I signed with a network, but it still is very much a partnership where they are just taking care of ad sales,
Okay.
It's not like this huge conglomerate that's doing the marketing. Like I'm very much on my own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So you're doing your own thing. They do the sales. You
Yep.
produce everything yourself. You
Yep.
book all the guests yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. That is awesome.
Yeah.
What do you think has led? You've had a ton of success with the podcast. What specifically has allowed you to go from ground zero to the success with the podcast? Is it the subject? Is it the guests? Is it the pre-production? Like, what do you think? Like, what's the special sauce of Sofia to go from nothing to like, again, back to everything?
I would say that I'm still learning. And very recently, I've made this major switch where I was putting blood, sweat, and tears into the show. And podcasting is not what it once was.
Yeah.
It is so saturated.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
And it's crazy. And that's not to say don't do a podcast, but
Yeah.
it used to be if you had a huge podcast, people will go check out your socials. Now it's if you're huge on socials, people will go check out your podcast.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Hmm.
So I kind of went from the girl who, in my own way, which is weird, I'm private on socials a little bit. I don't, go to post my entire life. But as you could tell by my text message exchange with my mom that I posted, I'm now really putting more time and energy into socials.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
And
do you think that the podcast space will like continue to grow, or like when you look at just the business model of podcasting, what do you think the future looks like for it being someone that's been in it for, I don't know, what's it, 6-7 years now?
Yeah, it's a long time. It's going to continue to grow.
Okay.
I think video podcasting and the video element is what's really going to take off now.
Got it. Almost like a show, if
Yes,
you will. Okay.
more so than just audio, which I have one of those rare instances because I started podcasting so early. People
Yeah.
still listen to me just audio,
Yeah.
you know, which I'm sure they do with yours, but it's a big chunk. So I think video podcasting is going to take off. And then I also think that guest interviews are great. I've seen a lot of people use like celebrity guests to get a lot of viewership, right? And
Sure.
listens. And I actually did that.
Yeah.
I like hired a company that was like helping me for a second. And it's great because you'll get a lot of listens and views on that one episode.
Yeah.
Those people don't stay
Sure.
with you.
For sure.
And so I kind of was like, yeah, it's cool for that episode, but I'm really trying to cultivate just me.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
You have your community, right? Your community, you call them the sleuths.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is a play on the word slut.
Yeah, I
The
figured.
sleuth.
Thanks. Put one and one together. Is part of that community building, like, are the sleuths, are they the ones that like drive the business? Like, is that a huge strategy as you're building like your plan out?
It's a huge strategy. And they're also the ones that when I went through this, I kind of for like a year really focused on guests.
Mm-hmm.
They did not like it. Like they were,
Because they wanted to hear you.
yeah. And they're
Yeah.
like, do solo episodes. Like we don't
Yeah.
care about
Yeah,
like
we
these
want
people.
you. Yeah. Okay.
So that's another reason why I'm like, I'm gonna go back to like my real fans, you know?
I love it. You speaking of guests, I did see that your top 5 dream guests included Amber Heard, Olivia Rodrigo, Donald Trump, Lana Del Rey. I met Lana, got to talk to her for like 2 hours at Stagecoach. She would like one-on-one got to talk to her for a lot. She is fucking awesome.
That's a sensitive
Awesome.
subject, by the way.
Why?
Because I did in my Coachella episode, I took a drug at Coachella
Okay.
and it hit
What
me.
drug?
I took Molly.
Okay. Have you ever
And
taken Molly before?
I have, but it
Yeah.
had been a while.
How
It
many
had been
times have you
years.
taken Molly?
Oh, when I was younger, I would
I
take
take it a lot.
I would take well,
Okay.
back then it was ecstasy and then it was like
I feel
Molly
like
or
it-
ecstasy.
Like, is there a difference or?
There's not.
So you take Molly.
I took
You're
Molly.
at Coachella.
It's not working.
Yeah.
I'm like 45 minutes an hour in. So I'm like, hey, I need more Molly. And this dude is like, you're like tiny. I really don't think that's a good idea. I'm like, hand me the Molly. Like I have to go see Lana Del Rey perform. I take the like next dose and 5 minutes later, like the first dose hits me, which is like the worst place to be because you're like, oh, I'm rolling balls and there's a second dose that's about to hit me in like 30 minutes. So long story short, right before Lana went on, I went home.
Oh, you missed her.
And I could have just like rolled around in the grass,
Yeah.
but I don't know. People were also coming up to me and like taking pictures, and I was like, this is fucking crazy. I need to get out of here.
While you're on Molly.
Yeah.
All right, I want to show you the photo. It was funny. It got posted and then like all her like fans, like her fan accounts all reposted. That was us that night that I met her. We were at the Patron house. Shout out Patron, Steph Rufo, and she was staying at the same house as us, just over there.
What?
And she just hung out with us all night. She was.
You guys are also
awesome.
matching.
I know that was just ironic, honestly. Wow, actually, I didn't think about that. We were matching. There's that.
That's
So,
insane.
any of those guests though, Amber Heard, Olivia Rodrigo, Donald Trump, Lana Del Rey, Lady Gaga. Have you gotten close to getting any of them?
I definitely have not. I didn't
Okay.
even see Lana Del Rey perform.
Yeah.
And I haven't even really reached out or tried.
Okay.
But Amber Heard is really my dream. I think she was
Okay.
done so fucking dirty by the media. And I know no one will stand up for her to say that.
Why do you think she was done dirty?
Because all of a sudden, Johnny Depp, Pirates of the Caribbean hero,
Yeah.
he just became this like superhero and she was completely villainized.
Yeah.
And I think they were both batshit crazy.
Yeah.
And I think they both were to blame. And I think it's crazy.
Do you feel any of that? Do you think through what you went through that you were villainized?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you think that
Absolutely.
was taken out of context?
Yes. Yes, for sure. I mean, I had the biggest, sports media company in the world
Yeah.
who have all the resources in the world
Yeah.
having to spin a narrative so that the show can live on without me, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm over here in Utah not saying shit. So yes, I think it was spun a certain way.
I struggle with also when things are coming my way publicly where it's mislabeling or taken out of context, stepping into it. Because sometimes I'm like, you know what? Sometimes the path of least resistance is just like, let it be, stay true to you. The truth always surfaces. Do you at all have any regret of taking approach of like, I'm just going to keep quiet for a while and let things happen? Would you have done that part of the business differently, like the PR side of the business differently?
Absolutely. And that wasn't even my choice, right? I'm seeing stuff being said and I'm like, I want to post something immediately.
Yeah.
And again, everyone around me is saying, don't look like the angry person.
Right.
Which, you know what, they probably had a point.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm actually like,
so do you think it was the right move?
I think I should have said something.
Yeah.
I don't think I should have just been completely silent.
Sure.
But I think that it was probably good that they were there to guide me a little bit, because I probably would have gone, wild, and then you end up looking crazy.
Yeah.
You get involved though when shit's said about you?
No.
Oh, you don't?
Unless I don't think I do, right? No. Unless you're like you can take shots, you can deceive, you can lie, do your thing. If someone says something that is just completely defamatory of like incorrect, that's going to impact my livelihood or my reputation, I'm going to come at it. And I'm going to come at it hard.
That's good.
Like I'm coming at it very hard.
Yeah.
But like I'm not gonna, like, you're making dumb innuendos that are false, or you're trying to portray something that's not a reality, and then there's no validity to it, and there's no way that there's no one showing validity to it, and then they're not lying. I'm just like, whatever, have your time.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Do you, with the Amber Heard situation, then connecting it to yours, are there any other situations out there where you see someone on like the opposite side, where like money and like fame and all these things are connected to either a settlement or a judgment or opinion that you feel strongly about? Because there's so many things out there that connect storyline to money, hero to villain.
Yeah.
Like every day there's going to be a new thing where that happens. Are there any others that you can think about that you're drawn to, or that you have like a conspiracy on or an interesting take on?
That are in the news right now?
Or even in the last like few years, like one that comes to mind.
The Taylor Swift Scooter Braun.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah.
So are you like more pro Scooter then?
Scooter was really helpful when everything was going down. I actually spoke with Scooter when
interesting.
Yeah. And then, when I saw like the Taylor Swift stuff and looked into it, he looked like a horrible human being.
Yeah.
Then in hindsight, when I was like really like looking at the details, it's like, well, he didn't. He bought something legally, like it wasn't, because he was so villainized.
Yeah.
I think that's a good example.
He didn't do anything illegal.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So, I mean, you can debate, like, I guess, like, ethical, unethical, whatever, but there's nothing he did that was illegal.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's an interesting one, actually.
Yeah.
You know what? Like, where did he go?
I think he's like out.
He's like done.
Yeah,
I
he
made
posted
9
something
millions and
like,
I'm out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, let me give you another one. The whole like Ellen DeGeneres. She has her show. She kills it. She's like, there's a point. Ellen DeGeneres is like one of the hottest celebrities in the entire country.
Right.
And then I haven't read all the reports or gone down the rabbit hole, but my understanding is there are people that have worked for her that said she didn't treat people well. And what's wild is the world we live in, like that tidal wave, maybe sometimes it's good, maybe sometimes it's bad, totally gets rid of her show. Now she's doing live comedy. She can't sell a ticket apparently. And so she says, I'm done. She cut her tour short and she said, I'm leaving Hollywood.
Oh, shit.
And so that's someone who went from literally hero to villain. Do you have a take on that?
And just completely could not make a comeback.
Could not make a comeback.
Career done.
But also, like, I'm sure she's fine. Like, you know what I
well,
mean?
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Ellen's fine.
Yeah.
But I think I do think there's something so much deeper than what happened to you with your perspective that we're getting at. And I do think in every situation, there's always three sides, right?
Yeah.
There's one side, there's the other side, and then there's the truth. And I think people have to, whether it's in the public eye in a headline or it's in just anyone's everyday life of hearsay, like be a devil's advocate in the room. Like when you're in a room and a bunch of people are talking shit about a subject matter, I would always encourage people, challenge that.
I do the
Think
same thing.
Because if you're not, you're going to be one of those people contributing to the bullshit that's spewed. And guess what? If those people are talking shit about other people in a room, I promise, or I bet you it's pretty likely when they leave that room, they might be talking shit about you next.
1,000,000%. And I live my life that way too.
I love it.
Now, when I look at things in the media or just in life, I always am like, okay, well, what could their take or their side be?
I like it. All right. We're getting to the end here. Talk to me about this.
Okay.
65K, Morgan Stanley. You go to 75K at Barstool. Are we making more than 10 times that now?
We're definitely making well over that now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well over 10 times.
Well over 10 times? I would say around the 10 times.
Well, congratulations. That's huge. And where do you go? Like when you look at the Sofia brand, you look at everything you've done with the podcast and how far you've come. Like, where do you want to go next with it all? Where's the business mind of building your empire go from here?
I'm taking it one day at a time.
Okay.
I definitely want to start doing stuff live and I've never interacted with my listeners in person. And I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
So that's going to happen. But I'm kind of just like figuring it out.
You're flowing.
Yeah.
Do you want to stay in New York?
Do I what?
Do you want to stay in New York?
I think so. For at least a couple more years.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Would you ever go into reality TV?
That's interesting. Yeah. I always used to say no. And then there was kind of this opportunity and
what was it?
Maybe I would. I can't say.
You can't say?
No.
Is it still a potential opportunity?
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So maybe TV's in your future.
Maybe
podcasting's in your future. Any potential book? Spilling all the tea?
A lot of people have asked me about the book. I kind of want to do a book when I can really do a book, you know?
Yeah. A little bit more time.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on Trading Secrets. It's unbelievable, your path, the different turns you've taken, and then the financial success you've had along the way, and also the financial transparency you will have with whoever that future husband will be. But we have to wrap with a trading secret. So you can't learn it from a professor or a bunch of TikTok tutorials which are out there. You can only learn it through your experience. It could be career navigation, financial navigation, anything. It could be just a life tip, but it is a trading secret with Sofia Franklyn. What can you leave us with?
I feel like I told a lot of secrets.
You dropped
I dropped a lot of secrets. Talk about your fucking finances with your partner. Crazy, crazy secret, but I didn't realize it was the statistics you were sharing were crazy.
Yeah. I mean, what's wild is we've had over 200 trading secrets. No one's had that trading secret, even though I wrote a damn book about it. The last thing I'll just follow up with that trading secret. Has there ever been a situation in a relationship where like you didn't talk money and it like came back to bite you? Or are you just learning from what your mom went through?
I'm just learning through what my mom went through. I don't think it's ever, I've never had an issue.
Love it.
But I've also never been like, that serious in a relationship.
Okay.
Which I'm working on.
Well, once you start working on that, if you ever want me to come on your show and break down all the things with love and money, I could drop a million stories and statistics. We could talk about it. But where can people find your show and everything you have going on?
The podcast is Sofia with an F. And then I'm on all socials, YouTube, TikTok. Sofia, spelled with an F. Franklyn is the last name, spelled with a Y.
Love it. If you are not following her on IG, TikTok, even Twitter, you got a big following there. YouTube, go check out Sofia Franklyn. Go check out her podcast, Sofia with an F. And Sofia, thank you so much for being on this episode of Trading Secrets.
Thank you. This was great.